Hello, it's Oren Prunken, and today I want to talk to you about the use of callouts for personalizing any sort of marketing or sales communication. So there's 7.6 or 7.7 billion people on the planet, and in an ideal world, if we could create a targeted ad or a targeted communication for each that speaks to them and them only, it would be so powerful. It goes back to one of the OGs in sales and copywriting, Robert Collier. He was famously quoted to say, always enter the conversation that is already taking place within the customer's mind. Robert Collier, always enter the conversation already taking place in the customer's mind. Now, it's impossible. You can never, at this stage, 2020, create a targeted communication, ad, sales communication, content, whatever we're talking about, that speaks to every human being, the 7.7 or the 7.6 billion humans on Earth. It's basically impossible. Currently, we only have, certain ways we can target people, and then thus, because we can target them, we can only create communications for those people. There are a whole range of other factors we cannot target. What we can target currently are things like geographics, so locations. We can target demographics, so age and gender and sex and all that kind of stuff. We can then target psychographics, so interests, things that are happening within someone's head. And then obviously the last one is behaviors, 4 different rungs of targeting in certain hierarchies. So the broader you go, so geographics and demographics, you can target a lot of people, and the more narrow you go, psychographics and behavior, the less and less people you can target. And a lot of those criteria match current advertising platform targeting criteria, specifics that you can actually go and target on ad platforms. There are sub-segmentation criteria, things like problem awareness, things like buying temperature, the need for every human to have multiple different sales communications, because it's very rare for one single sales communication to be able to sell someone on the next step in their customer journey. Different lengths of content, different lengths of messaging, different lengths of sales communication, and obviously different modalities or different methods and mediums that those messages can be distributed through. So there's quite a few sub-segmentation criteria that you could also use to try to segment one of these 7.7 billion people. Now, if you multiplied all of those different factors, and there's plenty more as well that I just mentioned, you could end up with hundreds of billions. Yes, hundreds of billions, not just billions, but hundreds of billions, if not thousands of billions of combinations of those segments for those 7.7 billion people. Now, when we come to the future, I think machine learning is going to get us really close to that. So what I think machine learning is going to be able to do is be able to track every single human behavior and thought process that happens. So those last 2 categories, behaviors and psychographics, that occur even before a purchase actually goes and happens. And then once it has that tracking ability of behaviors and tracking abilities of thoughts, machine learning will ultimately, in my prediction, be able to extrapolate back in time to predict a future purchase behavior and deliver the perfect sales communication at the perfect time. So what this means is machine learning will be able to predict when I'm about to make a purchase before I even know it, and they'll deliver me a personalized, to me, Oren, one of 7.7 billion people, the perfect message that allows me to buy before I even knew it. That's where we're going with all of this stuff. Now, the stage before that is artificial intelligence. So we're kind of getting close to that at the moment. So artificial intelligence will be able to give us specific sales communications to match the billions of combinations that I just came up with the segmentation, and deliver multiple messages and multiple communications and multiple different iterations of content customized to the billions of people. So what this really looks like is artificial communication will be able to take all of those segmentation criteria for every single human being and then split it so that a certain message matches that certain cohort, and it'll be distributed in whatever fashion we'll be using in the future. Whether that's a click, I don't think it will be a click, but whatever distribution it will be distributed by artificial intelligence. So if you map and match artificial intelligence and machine learning, we're going to get really, really close to that ideal that Robert Collier had of always entering the conversation that is already taking place within a customer's mind, and then matching that conversation, that thought process, or that behavior with the perfect communication that will get them to the next stage in this customer journey. But we're not there yet, so I'm just kind of future predicting where everything is going to go. But there is a middle ground, and a middle ground for 2020 where we're right now, and it applies to all kinds of channels. So it's kind of a four-step or four different criteria or categories that you can actually do right now. So it's creating communication around different awarenesses, and I said that before. So problem awarenesses, is it problem aware, solution aware, product aware, that kind of thing. So creating different communications for each one of those. Then once those communications have been created for each one of those steps in the sales process, then translating each one of those, and I just gave 3, into different modalities and different lengths. So modalities being if it's visual or if it's audible, and visual can be divided into so many different things. If it's live or if it's recorded, all kinds of different modalities, but also lengths. Is it short? Is it medium? Is it long? So on. So taking those 3 different communication categories, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and then translating them into visual or audible, and then making them short, medium, or long. So getting into dozens of different variations right now. So then the third category, or the third factor, is then retrofitting. So once you've done all of those, if it comes to 12 or a dozen or whatever, a couple dozen, whatever, then you want to retrofit those with what I'm calling callouts. So targeting messaging that matches with specific criteria. So geographics or demographics or psychographics or behaviors or buying temperatures, all of those things. So taking these core bits of communication and then retrofitting at the start this thing, the call out, to get people's attention. And then once you've done that, the fourth category is just distributing it to the corresponding segment through any distribution channels that you've already got. So I'm going to get into the specifics of how this could work for you, but I just want to tell you what happens for most brands. And what all brands do is they just create one sales communication or one message, and they distribute it to every single segment, every single channel they possibly could do that is somewhat related. One message, and they just blast it out to everyone. And that is just so far away from what Robert Collier wanted us to go out and do, to enter that conversation that's already taking place within a customer's mind. So, 100 years ago, that was fine. That's what the world looked like. But we're 2020. We're nowhere near that artificial intelligence or that machine learning that I was predicting and projecting where we could go. But we're somewhere in between 100 years ago and whenever all that other stuff I mentioned is going to materialize. So what you can do right now, and the most critical point, is retrofitting these callouts for extra personalization. So what I'm going to give you is just an example of this that I've seen out there in the world, and then give you some action steps that you can just implement that based on this case study that I've seen. So what I said before is that you have to distribute each version of this messaging or content or sales script that you've come up with. So I've seen down on Prospect Road. No, it's not Prospect Road. I can't even remember. The one that runs parallel to Prospect Road. It will come to me in a sec, I'm sure. But just outside of the city, when you go through Ovingham in South Australia, I can't even remember what road it is. Parallel to Prospect Road, there is a bus stop billboard that says, "We are only," so this is the headline, "We are only a hop, a skip, and a jump away." Really, really good call out. Sorry, not call out. I'll get to that in a minute. Really good attention catcher for curiosity. What does that mean? And then underneath that headline is an image that are people drinking alcohol. So you're like, oh, we're only hop skipping away. Something about alcohol. So alcohol was really, really close. You look under that, then it gives the brand for who is authorizing this billboard or celebration. So, okay, so there's something that's close by that's alcohol, or they're selling alcohol. It's a brand, it's Celebrations, the brand Celebrations. And then underneath that, it has got the suburb. It says Prospect, so it's in the suburb of Prospect, not prospecting for sales and marketing. So all of these things are just generated from this billboard. So the image the logo, and then the call out. The call out's the most important thing. That's prospect. It's a nearby. It's saying that this ad is personalized. So what Celebrations has done is they've created this communication. They've distributed it through all their channels. I suspect these are on multiple bus stops in multiple different suburbs throughout South Australia. I'm sure they've done it online. I'm sure they've done all of these things. They've got the distribution, like I said, out there. Like I said before, they have created a communication around problem awareness. So here, problem awareness is people want to drink, they want it quick, and close by. So they're already problem aware, they're already solution aware, and then they're product aware because it's already got Celebrations, the brand, on there. So I've already said that. They've ticked that box for that second category. So their prospects are problem aware and solution aware, but having the call out prospect, the suburb of prospect, I don't want you to get confused with marketing and sales, prospecting, they are retrofitting onto all of those things, the content, the distribution of that content, and they're retrofitting this call out, say, hey, people in Prospect or people driving through the suburb of Prospect, you can get it just down the road. They're retrofitting that specific targeting messaging. So it's all around geographics. They're not doing anything around demographics. They're not doing anything necessarily around behaviors. There are some things around psychographics, so interests and problem awareness, and that's already come up within the logo and the image, but they're retrofitting that call out. I've seen banks do this as well. So on bus stops, banks are saying, we have a branch in this suburb, and the bus stop, the billboard, and the branch all match up. So it is personalized. Now, this is on the low end of personalization, but it illustrates a really, really good point around getting that middle ground, as opposed to one message that is distributed to every single channel, every single segment, as opposed to the flip side of having a single message for a single person, where we'll go in the future. So I just want to illustrate that point with this billboard. And what I'll do is I'll try to take a photo and put a photo of this billboard so you can actually visually see what that is as well. So for you, the takeaway and the action steps I want you to get from this episode is, how can you do the 4 following categories? And I've mentioned them several times in this episode before. How can you create a communication around a specific problem awareness or solution awareness or product awareness? So create content or messaging around all of these different points. You should be doing that anyway to move people through the customer journey and the matching sales process. So that's the step number 1, creating all of these different core and fundamental foundational bits of communication. Do that. Then once you've done that, translate that into different modalities and lengths. So for the Celebrations billboard ad, they translated, I'm sure, into a billboard ad, but they also had probably things online for banner ads and that kind of thing. So they've likely, and I want you to do this, go out and translate that into different variations. So is it going to be video? Is it going to be a live in-person visual, someone talking at different lengths? And then once they've done that, or once you've done that, is then number 3, retrofit a call out. Retrofit and call out I mean by segmentation or targeting criteria. You're going to target by all of those things I said, things like geographics, demographics, psychographics, behaviors, problem awareness, buying temperature, all of these things. What call out can you do at the start of that? So you've got a call out, then you've got that bit of content that has been translated into various different forms. And you're going to repeat it. Call out, problem awareness, translated different forms. Call out, solution awareness, translated into different forms. And then finally, a call out for people that are product aware, translated into different modalities, formats, lengths, and so on. So that's the third thing. And then finally, what I want you to do is, once you've got all of these different bits of content, then go and distribute it through all of the channels that you have, particularly owned channels, but also like Celebrations and the banner, not the banner ad, the billboard ad that they use. Distribute that through owned, earned, and paid channels. So they've gone out and created paid channels by paying billboards to host them for them. So the distribution is through those three different mechanisms that I said before. 4 things that I want you to go try out. How can you put a call out that helps someone identify and be more personalized to them so they can say, yes, this is for me? We're going back to what Robert Collier, the copywriter, once said. Always enter the conversation that is taking place within your customer's mind And then the bit that was left out that I'm adding on there is create a communication that speaks directly to what is happening at that specific moment in time. And your conversions are going to go up drastically if you are able to do that, rather than create a generic message for everybody and distribute it to everybody. And that's how you're going to do it in 2020. Now, this episode will become redundant as machine learning and AI becomes more and more commonplace within our lives, but also within marketing and sales. So hopefully this episode has been really useful to you. I hope you can put some of this into action for the sales communication, the marketing communication, the content that you're putting out there to your customers and prospects, and see your conversions go up. Like always, I love hearing from people and feedback of how they go with this. And until we talk next time, I hope you have a phenomenal day, and we'll talk soon. Goodbye. Thanks for listening. And if you like what was on here and want more, please go to orenprunken.com.